work. Good good evening, my friends, on this eve of Christmas Eve. I told you yesterday I was gonna do another video, another training, so here we are today. It's actually an evening broadcast, one of the very few that I do throughout the years. Most of the time, obviously, if you followed me for a while, it's in the morning. So if you're new to me, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help survivors of narcissistic abuse codependents reclaim and rediscover their happiness by helping them heal the trauma bonds so that they can know who they are and live from that and create happy relationships in their world. So before we get started with today's random bits about who would you be, this question I ask a lot, I need to share this out to the community. Community is your safe haven here on the internet. If you're a survivor of narcissistic abuse and struggling with codependency, this community is something I put together in hopes and with the intent of creating a shelter for survivors where they are seen, heard, and valued, validated, and supported in their experience, in your experience of this kind of abuse, so that you can reclaim yourself from it and then restore and create again happiness and well-being in your life, maybe even for the first time. So the link is above on Facebook for that, below on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And now I've got to hit the share button, or they're going to be like, what about us? Why? So you know. So I just have to click a button and click that button, and boom. If you search for it on Google or Facebook, it's Thriving Beyond Codependency Community. So check that out. Good evening. Lovely to see you guys again today. It's the holiday season. It's also my off season, so I don't do a whole lot of structured work around this time. I take this week, next week, and the week after that, I take it light, take it easy. So, random bits. Who would you be? I want to make sure that the camera is doing its job right, because I seem to be a little more off-centered, so we're going to... There we go. Now I feel centered. Okay. So who would you be? So part of codependency is about identity. It's about this fusion of identity we have with the other person. This has to do with attachment development. Child level attachment. The child attaches to the parent to discover and understand who they are through a process of differentiation, individuation, reflection. And for a lot of us with codependency, this process was not completed. We weren't allowed to do what's called a transfer of identity from parent to child. This is where we become individuated from them. Like, I have my own thoughts and feelings, they have their own thoughts and feelings. It's secure to have these differences. It's secure to have the sameness, because the parent has effectively been a safe anchor for the child. They've provided shelter, they've provided reliable proximity, and helped the child learn how to regulate their separation or attachment anxiety. That is not something codependents have lived through. We have not gotten most of those things, if not any of them, right? We have suffered. We've had to figure out how to live in the world on our own. We've had to solve big problems that children ought not to be solving. A lot of times we are parentified or turned into the parent for the parent, because the parent abdicates their responsibility to the child. Now, in instances where the codependent had a solid childhood but were then seduced, abused, and then discarded by a narcissistic partner, they can have attachment injury that would result in a similar outcome in their future relationships. A lot of times through the abuse dynamic with a partner, we become infused or enmeshed with them as well, because we want them to be a certain way so that we can have a sense of safety, value, and worth, because we've given them responsibility over it, and we need to reclaim that from them. So usually the root here is that we're not keeping ourselves. And a lot of times that comes from neglect. It comes from a lack of being empowered in our world, or having a sharp neglect in some sort of stabilizing force, aka a safety anchor or shelter in our world, where we can be cared for and seen, and take off the armor and be nurtured that way. And so this alters identity. It alters the way we discover identity. It alters the way we understand ourselves, because we don't know who we are without this other person. We don't know who we are without this particular behavior or this way of living. Because if you can also look at codependency as a lifestyle, as a relationship approach, as a means for meeting needs, as a way of functioning in something we would call love at that point. Who would we be without it? Now, I use the question because the question actually comes from a system called Access Consciousness. And they like questions, and I really liked this question, and it helped me out quite a bit in discovering more of me and cultivating a premise, or a lifestyle rather, of discovery. This question builds into that, because discovery is how we find our way out of this. It's also how we find our way into other more healthy, nurturing things in our world. It's the secret. It's the key, is discovery. And behind that's the curiosity about, well, I know who I am with this. Who would I be with that? And the idea behind this question is to open you up to the awareness that's already within you about who you can be. See, the answer, we're not really seeking an answer in so much as we're seeking an awareness about who I see myself becoming, who I can see myself as without or with something. Let that sit for a moment. Because we lean into the idea of like, well, I know I'm codependent. Well, who would I be without it? And a lot of times the brain blinks out, or it starts throwing big solutions at us, or options rather. So what? Let it simmer. Because you're going to find other things start to bubble up within you. You're like, well, maybe I'm confident. Maybe I wouldn't care so much about other people's opinions of me. Maybe I do that thing that I've been wanting to do. You might find lightness enter your body. You might find an inspiration emerge in you. Lean into that. Play with it. See what it teaches you. The goal of questions like this is to expand your awareness of you beyond the box you're in. It's to help you begin to identify with a new potential, a new option, a new you, and then begin to explore it. One of the big wrestles with growth is fear. It's not knowing what's coming, right? Where you're really like, oh God, what's going to happen to me? If I do this, I'm going to get this, I can't do it all. Well, yeah, you can't do it all. But if I make this big change and become this thing, then this big consequence will come. Maybe. But exploring it allows us to begin to adapt to it, to consider it, to play with it, to expand the comfort zone rather than try to break through it. A lot of times there's this forceful approach to our limits. We have like glass ceilings and floors, and we're going to break through the ceiling, and we're going to bust through the comfort zone, and we're going to 10x it and all this other crap. And I call it that because it's not useful. It's aggressive. It's not, and it's violating. For those of us who have dealt with trauma, who are dealing with a premise of, I don't have a safe shelter or an anchor in the world, I have to be that for myself, risk and growth, doing something new, puts those things at risk, right? So it raises the danger threshold. It doesn't feel safe. Well, approaching it gently like this, rather than breaking through that glass ceiling, we just raise it. It's like, okay, well, I want to see how comfortable I can be at doing this thing, and then this thing, and then up and up. And you'll find yourself growing a lot faster. You'll find that the growth sticks. You'll find that you discover more about who you really can be. Because there's one thing I frequently learn and relearn, a little eyelash there. I have no clue what my potential is. I don't know what my limits are. I know what my limits are right now. I know what my capacity is right now. But I don't know my like fixed limit. Like, that is not a thing I can do. I don't know what that is. I'm willing to bet you don't either. When we stop giving into the idea that we know our potential, then we can just go like, well, I wonder what it'll be in this. I wonder what that'll be like. I wonder what this will be like. You don't even have to access your own capability with it anymore. It's more like, but what is there for me? What shows up for me there? Hey, Dry. Yes, 100%. Thank you. It is this notion that it's I come from the notion that it's discovery. This is how we get out of codependency. It's how we get out of any box that we've put ourselves in. Sometimes we put ourselves in success boxes. I'm a very successful mentor coach. Yeah, cool, great, Marsh. But I'm more than that. So who am I beyond that? Who am I beyond being a father, being the level of father I am now? I think about that a lot. How can I show up better for my children? Because I don't have a model for that. I am figuring that out on my own. How can I be a better boyfriend, a better friend? How can I be better to me? Who would I be as a better... Who would I be with a better relationship to myself, to my pain, to my fear? I often play this with who would I be if I had a better relationship to my insecurity. That sounds really backwards, but it tends to open up that maybe if I gave my insecurity a little more space, that I discover it's just not insecurity. It's just a desire for love. A desire to be included, to be valued, to be wanted, socially. It's now I'm tapping into the needs. I'm tapping into, okay, who would I be if I allowed myself to receive those things? There's a peace that enters me. I would be peaceful. I would let myself see how I show up and where I'm wanted and where I am invited, and where I'm valued. Notice it has zero to do with codependency. Notice it has nothing to do with getting over the insecurity or healing it. It's really about a respect for it. It's about an honor for what's showing up. That's the magic of it. Because I'm a member of a lot of different courses, a lot of different healing systems over the years. And the ones that really worked were the ones that invited me to discover me. I didn't have any preconceived notion about who I should be. You discover who you are. That's how I designed my systems. That's how I approach this. It's, well, who do you want to be here? Sometimes we can deliberately choose, I want to be confident in this thingy. I want to be indifferent in that thingy. Okay, let's discover what that's like. Because you may well find out that that doesn't work for you there. Brain might be like, oh, that's what needs to be done there, rather. And, well, maybe that isn't. So who would you be? Who would you be beyond codependency? Who would you be beyond the healing? Who would you be beyond all the judgments you might hold? All the expectations you might cling to? Who would you be beyond the doubt about what you can do? Who would you be beyond the doing? These are things to explore, to find out if it resonates with you. Go for it. See what shows up. But that's the bits on this. That's the random bits. Who would you be? That's why I ask this question a lot. That's why I ask questions like, well, are you willing to live with the consequence? Does that align with your well-being and happiness? Because we're getting back to ourselves. We're getting back to self-reference. We're discovering ourselves. Who would I be? You can also ask yourself, if you're in a toxic relationship right now, or you're craving to go back to one, Who do I want to be? Does this relationship align with that? Do my behaviors in this relationship align with that? Because sometimes not all relationships are narcissistic, right? And if it doesn't contain abuse, then maybe we need to explore ourselves. Maybe we're in a good relationship, we're just having some conflicts, right? And maybe we're being a little stubborn. So who do I want to be in this relationship? What are the values that drive me in this? What is it like to be those values? It's always kind of a mix for me on that, with specifically navigating between, hey, how do we handle healthy relationships? And then they start contrast of exiting toxic ones, or making decisions about what you're going to do with one, because I can't tell you what to do with your relationships. Generally, though, your well-being and happiness need to come first. That's what's priority in those. So when it comes to identity, it comes to this exploration. It comes to the discovery of all these things, all these beautiful elements of ourselves. Who would you be? Explore it. Let's see what you discover in this world. Okay? So that's my random bits. I will see you guys next week for a couple videos. Be safe out there with the holiday. Be gentle with yourself. It may not be an easy time. I've definitely had a number of Christmases where it was not great. So you're not alone. If you need shelter, you want support, join the Thriving Beyond Codependency community. Links above on Facebook, below on YouTube. If you need tools to help you regulate your nervous system, calm yourself down, get a little more power over anxiety or sadness, or even distress, check out the Be Calm tool set. The link is also in the descriptions. It is free. Keep yourself safe. And I will see you in our next video. Okay, guys.